Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group A. This week, our group, we are going to present about the goals of language teaching part 2. And let's introduce our member in the group. My name is Nur Atika Braha. My friends Ruwanda Pratiwi, Nasrin Rahama, and Intira Yusuf. Let's start it with the first presenter is Ruwanda Pratiwi.
Students and teachers measure their progress by how close they are to native English speakers aiming to speak French like the Frenchies say or add words admired to shorthand. As a result, most LLA users consider themselves a failure because they don't sound like native speakers, something that by definition would never do. When compared to native speakers, unfortunately they all didn't make it. Therefore, accents are not an obstacle to their career in very different ways. Why should they be treated to be aspired native speaker rather than hugely successful LA users? It doesn't matter if they sound as if they are from Poland, France, and Germany, not Texas, Melbourne, or Glasgow. What's important is they can use their second language is efficient. Next. Next, according to his fellow novelist Virginia Woolf, he spoke English like a foreigner, talking broken English. A recent radio interview with Dr. Frederick Reiber saw that at the age of L2, he still had a marked French accent in English. No one would have mistaken Harry Kissinger, the former U.S. Secretary of State, for anybody other than a German L2 user of English. Measure again native speaker. They are all woefully unsuccessful. Next,
Okay, what test major or quotations? First is IL is International Language Testing Shim. British. IL band score 9 should not be equated with native speaker standard because the English used by native speakers varies greatly. In fact, score 9 represents an expert user, that is someone who has fully operational command of the language and makes almost no errors. And the second is TOEFL, is Test of English as a Foreign Language USA. The TOEFL IBT test measures your ability to use and understand English at the university level, and it evaluates how well you combine your listening, reading, speaking, and writing skill to perform academic tests. And the last is CEFR, is Common European Framework of Reference for Language European. Level C2, while it has been termed mastery, is not intended to imply native speaker or near native speaker competence. What is intended is to characterize the degree of precision, appropriateness, and ease with the language which typifies the speech of those who have been highly successful learners. Okay, next. Nevertheless, researchers, language and students still take it for granted that success in L2 learning means speaking like a native. Two eminent researchers, Halton Stam and Abramson, suggest absolute native-like command of an L2 may in fact never be possible for alien learners. As discussed in topic 2, why should it be? Our students said non-native speakers need to go the extra mile to speak correctly. Why is native speech the only kind that is correct? 42% of Chinese students surveyed said that they would prefer to speak like a native speaker, but most of them are unlikely to ever meet a native language school, sell themselves on the nativeness of their staff. And in London, One is invite to learn French from the Learn French school in the Grace program. All our teachers are native speakers of English. In English University, the teachers of model language are almost invariably native speakers of the language they teach. All languages are taught by a native or bilingual teacher. Program the University of Essex. Okay, next.
This is example for Japanese woman dreaming of native speaker. A native speaker teacher is not member of any of the L2 user groups. The student can aspire to member of they never learn the first language with any particular goal in mind, unlike the L2 students. Next. And Corey Grosjean has called this monolingual view of bilingualism is recognized the only proper use of the language to be that of monolingual, but the language of L2 user is often different from monolingual native speaker and sometimes research. Look at from the monolingual perspective, the L2 user is indeed defective. Japanese L2 users of English seldom learn the L R contrast in play and pray. And so does any of the matter, only if the stop the message getting across the LR contrast can definitely lead to confusion. The polite email opening may, however, work perfectly well for non-native addresses. As an early email adopter, I use no salutation at all. The point of email is to cut away the antiquated formality of business letter with their express which you are faithfully. It's often easier for L2 users to talk to fellow L2 user than to English native speaker. Some trade unionists said that their problem at international meeting con- conduct in English were not with other second language users, but with English native speakers who did not adapt their speech to L2 users. Next.
Okay, this is the example of segment of consider difficult with using the monolingual native speakers as the role model for the L2 user. One is that the native speakers in the abstraction, people speaking your first language vary in all sorts of ways. Some are illiterate, vocabulary, just from Newcastle speak very differently from Londoners. Yet Georgians are as much native speakers as those living in London. Which native speakers do you choose? In actual fact, native speakers normally means monolingual native speakers of a status, variety of the language. In multilingual Switzerland, German-speaking students are not taught Swiss French, but Parisian French. French-speaking students are not taught Swiss German, but High German. In the teaching of British English, the target is usually receive pronunciation and start grammar. You have the same form of plural and singular. Newcastle is pronounced with a long back vowel a. The word of surface on which you may sleep is slippery. Georgians, however, distinguish singular thank you from plural thank yous and pronounce Newcastle with an a vowel. The word for slippery is slippery, sleepy. The idealized native speakers target corresponds to a particular minority subgroup of native speakers, not to the totality. More seriously, the native speakers' knowledge of the language is often thought to be identical with the ideal form of the language in grammar books. Any grammar normalizes a language by including non-standard speakers and by including all the vast range of forms found in the language. Native speakers do not know the entire and meaning in the Oxford English Dictionary. It is very dangerous for SLA learner, researcher, or language teacher to assume that students need to cover everything in the total description of the language, whether pronunciation, vocabulary or grammar, measuring the L2 user against the book description of the generation native speaker weight the aids heavily against them. And actually, a native speaker would meet this criteria. If you want to compare an L2 user with a native, then you need to choose and speech. This is the summary of our group. First, many L2 learners and L2 users aspire to be as similar as possible to native speaker. Yet it is hard down what an elder with native speakers may be. Second, this native speaker goal cannot be achieved because they already have one language in their mind. And the last, L2 users and L2 learners need to be assessed against successful users, not against native speakers as reflected in many contemporary examination systems. From the summary that the native speakers is assumed to speak the language perfectly, but far from being perfect, all native speakers make mistakes in terms of standard variety. That is, every time an L2 user makes mistakes, they feel guilty. Native speakers seldom notice their own mistake. On the say or the self spelling test, L2 users are actually better than molecular native speaker. And that's all from our group. Hope that you join and interest. Thank you.